The class of 2022 has always known how to lead. After all, we're great at making a name for ourselves. Who else can say they're the first grade to be kicked out of the middle school common room as young, naive whiteout throwers? We've grown up a little since then, and I'd like to say our style of leadership has matured along with us. I'm proud to look at you all now and see club leaders, business owners, and captains graduating today. But I can't help but reflect on a less traditional kind of leadership that's percolated through our class this year. Today, I will introduce you to a new, much more infectious kind of leader that I've witnessed spread among our class, the first follower. Practically, a first follower has the power to turn a seemingly absurd person or idea into a movement by being the first to align themselves with an issue. They're the person who sees a leader do something and follows along, shifting it from a solo effort to a defined group. First followers are how someone standing up and sitting down turns into a stadium of fans doing the wave. The wave is nothing without the followers, just as a Mamma Mia cast dance-along is nothing without its dedicated section of seniors copying their moves. This year, our class has nailed the first follower form of leadership. I remember walking into a half-empty classroom a couple months ago and seeing Alon and Luke frantically whispering, practically giddy to ask me if I'd heard of the game Assassin, or, as a few key adults have since told me to refer to it, senior washout. After giving them a cautious yes, they told me to text every single senior I was friends with to see if they'd want to engage in a grade-wide competition. In case you have the privilege of not having this game invade every aspect of your life, senior washout is a game where teams try to spray other teams with water when they least expect it, including at their own homes at 6 in the morning, ideally eliminating other groups until they're the last ones standing. I know it sounds like chaos, but I promise it was unbelievably fun. But this joy wouldn't have been possible without the first following nature of our class. Everyone had to hear that elevator pitch, weigh the costs and benefits to themselves, and decide that a little bit of straying from the norm, a little bit of emotional and sometimes physical discomfort was worthwhile for a potential new tradition. I still have a Snapchat message ingrained in my head from that era. It said, "Add everyone you can to this chat." Because not only do good first followers support with enthusiasm, but they also immediately recruit new followers. Exclusion doesn't make sense in the eyes of a good first follower. Isn't that a utopia? Well, not always. To indulge the lifers for a moment and maybe allow the rest of you to see just how far we've come, I'd like to recount a moment when first following went a bit awry for us. It was 7th grade capstone, and we were enjoying some pizza under the fluorescent glow of the Shore Country Day School cafeteria lights, when I hear what can only be described as hooting and hollering coming from a pack of boys surrounding Mr. Caldwell, who seems like he's starting to cough a lot. Then I make eye contact with Yehoon, who has the most overjoyed look on his face. And looking down into his hands, I can see why. He's holding what's labeled the world's hottest salsa that he bought in Boston earlier that day, and somehow he'd just gotten Mr. Caldwell to give it a try. So soon, seeing the pain that the salsa was inflicting on their teacher, kids were clamoring to be that next person to try it, reaching in, tasting some, regretting it immediately. That first follower instinct starts young, I guess. Now everyone's coughing and tearing up, looking around for something to make that heat feel a little bit better. But in the corner of the cafeteria, where there had always been a container full of cartons of cold milk, there was somehow nothing. It was completely empty. It almost felt personal at that point. So there we were, a whole bunch of people who first followed their way into a night of misery altogether. So, how did our class go from that traumatizing hot salsa experience to becoming the upstanding citizens and scholars we are today? Well, only a year into high school, we lost performances, games, events, hallway chatter. COVID hit our sophomore and junior selves, and it was like we got advance notice of what it would be like after high school when we left each other for good. All interaction had to be solicited. Without the spontaneity of a chance encounter, we could never drop in to see the musical or a tournament, and our acquaintances we liked to see from time to time were quickly sorted into the people we'd text and those we wouldn't hear from for months. It was a taste of post-NA life before we were ready to be done with NA and each other. So being thrown back into a senior year of near normalcy brought giddiness. Suddenly it became a privilege to set aside hesitation and be that second person standing up in the stadium doing the wave, or the fan sitting in the front row, or the senior washout player. We are less afraid of being first followers because we know what it feels like to lose the capacity to follow anyone at all. Our high school experience has been punctuated by profound loss. But with the fortune and the privilege we were somehow granted, we've also learned what it looks like to pursue profound joy along with it. So, what does the class of 2022's aptitude for first follower behavior mean for us? Hold that question in your mind for me for a moment. What does our first follower instinct mean for this class? Store it away while I give you this quick backstory and a tiny philosophy lesson, but I promise it's not TOK. It was freshman fall, after school, in Philosophy Psychology Club, and we were talking about existentialist hammers. That afternoon was the first time I learned all about essence and existence. So, why hammers? For something like a hammer, its essence, or the purpose that it gets meaning from, is to put nails in stuff. This meaning comes before any one specific hammer is made. Its essence precedes its existence. Jean-Paul Sartre claimed that we humans stumble into life so humanly because our existence precedes our essence. We are born, we exist, before we get a purpose or essence. I'd posit that then our life is a quest for some kind of essence, assuming you're one of the joyful and hopeful and romantic few that can tamp down cynicism enough to live for a moment. So, time to recall that big question, what does our first follower instinct say about the future of this graduating class? It says that we're ready to pursue the cool essences. Not the essences defined by numbers in a checking account or the ones that'll feel hollow after a decade or two. The cool essences, reserved for people who can, with a bit of instinct, follow the right controlled chaos to create genuinely powerful movements. The authentic essences that enable us to be people who create events that change lives, organizations that contribute good, and moments people cherish. We stumbling humans are simultaneously drawn to and fear the boldest ideas. But if we are to pursue cool essences without ego, without pride, then we can wield our first follower nature when it is absolutely essential. Perhaps some of us will be standalone founders, but with this first follower instinct, we will all be leaders, builders, mentors, citizens, friends. We will be good, nourished people. We will be joyful. And because we will elect to be first followers of only what is worthy of being essentially us, we will grow toward enlightenment. Class of 2022, it's been an honor to follow along with you these past 7 years. Thank you.